Going to put the link in the social thing. And I'm going to press the share button. I don't know why I'm narrating this. This makes me feel better.
Someone in the chat called Stick said goat beef. I don't know what that means.
Goat beef?
Goat beef.
Okay. That's fine. Goat beef.
Goat. Oh, goat beef. It's camel cased, so I feel like that's
a startup name.
Something. Yeah.
All right, let me do the pop-out chat.
It's like Netflix for various types of beef.
All right.
Or maybe it's the next Sega's phone. They're gonna just
Sega's goat beef.
They'll put a number after that, but there won't be a space. It'll be the goat beef 7.
The goat beef 7.
I hate that so much.
Let me just go ahead and that's the title of the episode. Goat beef 7, and I'm not putting a space between the beef and the 7, by the way.
God, David.
It's good.
You're killing me.
It's gonna make a lot of sense to people who don't.
It's gonna make no sense. All right, I'm gonna start recording. And then I'm going to do the intro, which maybe I remember to do. I haven't really thought about if I remember how to do it. Is it just welcome? It's just welcome, right?
Welcome to the Android Police
like
Podcast.
Okay. At the beginning.
Welcome. Okay, start recording now. Welcome to the Android Police Podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. I am your host, David Reddick. Matt is not with us this week. Once again, just to clarify, Matt will be back, not next week because we're not doing a show next week, but Matt will be back the week after that, probably. I butchered this. Now it's really awkward for everybody else to say the names.
Again.
We're gonna redo. That was really bad.
Also, Cody, I can hear you chewing.
Mute your microphone.
What is with my mic at everything?
I'm going to try it again. Welcome to the Android Police Podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. I'm your host, David Reddick.
I'm Liam Spradlin, I guess.
And I'm Cody Toom.
It's so weird when Matt doesn't do it.
I know.
We are pros.
It's so awkward.
This is why we have him, because we're not good at this stuff.
Matt's not here this week. He couldn't join us because we're doing some awkward scheduling because of the holidays. But this is our 2016 year-end special, and this is where we would have confetti if we had any. And we're going to talk about instead of the news, we might talk about the news a little bit, but we also have 10 topics or stories that we think were very interesting or funny or just very noteworthy this year. And one of them is not the Note 7 because, God, we're so tired of talking about it. We're not going to do that.
But that did happen this year, so don't email us and tell
us.
It
gets a dishonorable mention. So that's everybody said everything I'm going to say about that. So I guess we can get started. Now, we picked these stories, or I picked, I should say. I looked at the top 100 posts on AP for the last calendar year. And, well, I mean, I couldn't put like 8 stories about Pokemon Go changes and a new version and then do all of those because that would be insanely boring.
It turns out people really like Pokemon Go, or at
they
least
liked it
at some point.
At some point, they really, really liked it.
I want to know how many people are still playing.
Yeah, probably a lot in like Japan. But
I mean, I'm sure compared to other mobile games, there are still a lot of players.
Yeah.
I can think one friend I've got who still plays, but even she admits she's down to like when she thinks about it once or twice a week kind of thing.
I opened the app to try and find a Pikachu with a Santa hat, and I failed, so I closed it.
Yeah, I actually, today, for the first time in like probably 2 or 3 weeks, I opened it, and I was like, oh, there's a Pikachu with a Santa hat a couple blocks away, and I was like, do I want to go and do that? It's like, no, I don't care that much.
Yeah. So I picked these stories, and they're not in any particular order. Although if there was an order, Pokemon Go would be on top because, it was definitely the most page views of any topic this year for all the various posts. Sure. So we've got 10 things, and so I guess the first one is Pokemon Go, which I think it was remarkable, mostly for the fact that anybody who made content on the internet was like, holy crap, you just put these two words in the title and people just, they click. They can't not click. They will always click.
Yeah, that was a magical time.
It was
summer 2016. It was a wild ride of Pokemon and updates to Pokemon and
going.
Yeah, and going to catch Pokemon. But then everybody sort of realized that it wasn't a very good game.
It wasn't, and it isn't. It has not become a good game either.
I just want to point out, like, when it first came out, like before I think it was even publicly available, we talked on the show about how it wasn't very good. But then, like, everybody was like, "Oh my god, I have to play Pokemon Go." I'm pretty sure we were right. I stand by our assessment.
The thing is, I felt like when it first launched, it was like a good version 1. And I was like, oh, updates will come soon. It'll get really exciting. It'll get even better. And all these people who are playing will play. And then it didn't happen.
Yeah, what was cool when it first came out is that everybody was playing it. So you could just like go someplace and everybody was doing the same thing that you were. And it was a very surreal kind of gaming experience.
It was fun.
It was bizarre.
It was happy. I felt good about it.
There were like the videos of like people rushing into Central Park to catch a Vaporeon, and everybody was like, "What is happening?" And then what's his name wrote that Crazy Pants post about how we were all dying as a society because of that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a thing, and I think Niantic really made an error in the way they handled that.
I think that a lot of
they spent so long doing bug fixes and trying to prevent cheaters that they did not come out with real features.
They didn't even do a good job of it, though, because there are so many people who like botted the hell out of that game, and like, and they were like, and there were all the tracking apps that worked for like months, where people could just like, find all the high level stuff. I mean, and the thing now is like, even though there are still people playing it, but when I opened it today, I looked at like the gyms nearby, and they're all like level 9 or 10 or whatever, and they're full of 2,000 plus CP Pokemon, and it's like, I can't, like, this isn't even fun. Like, there's nothing I can do in the game now.
Well, that's kind of what happened with whatchamacallit, Ingress too.
Yeah,
I think that so my obviously pessimistic take on it is, I think that in retrospect, I think that the nostalgia factor was so intense for this game. People really wanted to relive the magic of playing Pokemon for the first time. Because, I mean, come on, if whatever age you were when you first played Pokemon, it was still this magical experience. Because there's this new thing, and you're constantly discovering new things. And with Pokemon Go, I mean, it kind of managed to capture a little bit of that magic initially, but you could never really go beyond that. There was never really any true immersion that the game provided.
Yeah, like the main draw, I think, to Pokemon Go is like the collecting aspect. It's like that was still very much like the original games. You're like, I want to get all the things because then I have more things. But then you're like, oh wait, what do I do with the things? Not really anything, because the combat system is ridiculous.
Yeah, the combat system still doesn't make any sense. I mean, I feel like...
And it's not like the Pokemon combat system was hard. Like, it was a super simple, quick RPG combat thing, and it was great. And then they're like, we don't want to do that. How about you just tap a lot?
Yeah, I could come up with a list a mile long of things that I wish the app did.
Yeah.
One of them would be like battling other people nearby. Like, you could be that jerk who sees someone else walking.
It's still not a thing. And
I also wonder, there were a lot of takes on this when it came out, where people said, oh, this is going to change the face of gaming forever, because this is, this is such a different way to do it. And in the meantime, like, AR games, still nobody seems to care except Pokemon Go.
David, what temperature would you say those takes were?
I'd say those takes were about 375.
Just what temperature scale?
Oh, in Fahrenheit. That's they were a solid lasagna bake.
Okay.
So it's I think that so much of that game's momentum was just the brand and the nostalgia, and then it became clear that the gameplay just is deep as like a fountain in California. It's just so there's nothing there beyond the surface level.
A missed opportunity, though.
It
could have been cool.
Yeah,
could have.
Imagine if they had actually made like one of the original Pokemon games, but tied to the real world. Like, how awesome would that be?
Yeah, that would be awesome. But that would require Nintendo to actually probably care. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it still was crazy how many people were so into it in the first 2 weeks, especially it was out. I mean, you could write like Pokemon Go is actual farts, and people would be like click 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 click.
I would probably still click on that now.
Of course, who wouldn't click on that? That's some very clickable content. But
we should pitch that to Clickhole. If possible.
We need someone on staff to cover the actual farts beat.
So that covers our first topic. The next one, obviously, by probably sheer force of traffic between leaks and reviews and news, the Pixel phones, without a doubt. And I think the Pixel phones annihilated the Nexuses on AP versus Nexuses last year in terms of traffic and general interest. Now, granted, a lot of that interest was very negative, but there was still a huge amount of interest compared even to the Nexuses last year.
Yeah. I mean, well, in addition to being, Google's 2016 phone, it was like, wait, they're going to do what phones now? How is this going to work? What's going to happen to Nexus? And everybody was all like hot and bothered about that. So they were, I think the comments were probably, I'm going to look, they're probably super full of people complaining. Oh, I mean, Ron, who we love. Ron is great, but the top comment on that post, guys, that design is not worth $650. I'm sorry. Okay, Ron. But
it's harsh, but it may be a little true.
But I mean, like, seriously, like, the Pixels are very, very good phones. I do not personally have any problem with paying $650 for one because they're very good.
Yeah, the pricing was contentious. I think that, okay, hold on. I think something's wrong. Oh, wait, no. All right. When I'm talking, the recording is fine. When Ryan's talking, it's really quiet on my laptop. I'm going to... I don't know if I should pause this or not. Ryan, can you just say something for a minute?
Okay, this is me saying stuff.
Liam, can you talk?
I can talk. I have the ability to say words.
Okay, I'm not getting anything from either of you guys. That's really weird.
So,
hold on. I'm gonna have to look at this. 1 second.
Okay. I mean, like, worst case, you can grab the audio from YouTube or something, right?
Okay, unfortunately, I know what happened. So we didn't get any of that.
Okay, that's unfortunate. Is it
pull it from
vinegar
YouTube.
related?
Yeah, so I had updated my audio drivers on my laptop, and it defaulted the Audacity, the capture device, back to the microphone.
Okay,
You
so
should
we're
just get a MacBook.
audio.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to rip it from YouTube, but that's okay. I can work with that. Anyway,
yeah. So wait, what were we?
we're on the
complaining about?
Pixels.
Oh,
So I think the most divisive thing, pre actual announcement, was probably still is, I guess, maybe less so now. People were really irked about the design, like really irked.
I mean, it's not like they're not like sexy phones, but I think they look nice. It's like an understated, clean design, and like the front panel does have like that HTC vibe. but I don't feel like the overall shape is necessarily like an HTC phone.
I feel like it's nuanced, and I think a lot of people miss the like small details that make it unique, which is fair. And it's fair to say that a phone doesn't look unique if it relies on small details to make it unique. Like, that's totally reasonable. But I appreciate what it does have. But that said, I'm looking forward to the Pixel 2, and I hope that it has a light bar next time.
Yeah, the lack of light bar is
the light
battery
bar
life
is
damned. I want lights.
it's an obligation now. No, I think the front of the Pixel looks just fine. It just the back of it makes no sense to me. It wasn't really the design that bothered me though. It's the lack of water resistance.
Yeah,
that's
that
the
was
big
a bummer.
huge negative to me. It's the only phone in that price category that didn't have a really good water resistance rating.
I mean, like, I certainly I understand the objection to that logically, and like when you look at the Pixel compared to other phones, it's unfortunate that it doesn't have waterproofing, but I don't think I have ever dropped a phone in water, even if it does have waterproofing. So I've technically never taken advantage of that feature.
Yeah,
I
same
haven't
here.
either, but I've been around water enough times and super careful with my phone, like making sure I always have a good grip on it. And I know too many people who've dropped their phones in water.
I just want to be able to do the
use it,
thing
but-
where you like put it under the faucet and it looks really cool. I just want to do that. But even something that I've learned as I've lived with the black Pixel is that the finish like scratches off really easily. So that's probably my biggest complaint.
I have not actually had any of
Interesting.
mine scratch off yet.
just
I don't
wait.
think. Maybe just a tiny bit on one top corner.
Yeah,
But-
I haven't either, but I don't know.
No, I guess I have. So I guess around the edges,
Yeah.
there's a little bit. Yeah.
And so that's why I was
Well,
using a live case. I took it off today. We'll see if I put it back. But that's the longest I've ever gone.
Live case.
on basically.
The live cases are really cool, and
They are.
that's one of the bestest accessories of the year.
Yep. And we
Yeah.
all basically like the exact same
Yeah, I have the
design.
same one.
I took my live case off a while ago, and I have not
I
had
have
desire to put it back.
I have this
So,
one for the XL, the Eagle Nebula, which is fun.
Yeah, that's a
Is-
good one too.
Somebody's pointing
Um,
out, and I think fair enough point, that the live cases lack protection along the top or bottom of the phone.
I hate
get that it's about like not making the port access look like visually cumbersome and like nitpicky, but it's kind of like a function of the object issue where it doesn't function if there's no case there to protect that part of the phone. I've seen several people complain that their Pixels have been dented because they dropped them where the case wasn't covering the phone.
Yeah, I don't know much about cases because I don't normally use them, but how would you put it on in that case?
I'm sure you
it
can
would,
still.
it would have to be made of like softer material or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to probably use.
Okay,
some
and
kind
here's
of hybrid.
here's the problem with those cases, like the bendy rubbery ones. They get disgusting. They're terrible after a couple months. They get dingy and like discolored and dirty and just unpleasant.
Yeah. So Kyle asked a few minutes ago, and I think it's a good kind of topic of discussion in this general area. So aside from waterproofing, which we've already brought up, what do we want to see changed when Google does the new version of the phone?
Light bars.
Light bars, okay. Light
Also-
bars, waterproofing.
I know that literally every person on the planet is going to say bezels. I don't care about bezels, but it's going to be said. So let's just say it.
Give me Daydream performance that's not going to cook the phone alive.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
that's more on Qualcomm. So
It's very hot.
I know.
Yeah.
but- well, it didn't have to be. Even a little bit of like manipulation to heat distribution probably could have helped that. I mean, it's a nitpicky thing. It wouldn't have made a huge difference, but it's something. They probably
would
could
say-
have designed for it.
I want the speaker to be better. The speaker is one of the things on this phone that definitely could be better.
Oh, yeah.
If they could get back to front-facing speakers, that would.
I don't
be
even
Yeah.
necessarily need front facing. I just need a loud, clear speaker. That's what I want.
The
My-
thing that annoys me is the speaker is sort of like right where I like put my finger when I'm like holding
Yeah.
the phone. Like
Mhm.
that's it. Like I cover the speaker. Like,
But that's true of many phones now.
I
I know,
So-
but like in general, I don't like the bottom firing speaker because of that. Because I find that I often end up covering it.
I don't know
And it
if it
doesn't
was
matter
said
how
on the show or who said it, but somebody said that it might fire from the bottom so that when it's in the daydream, it's not like being blocked by the headset.
Where does the headset like cover up though?
Well,
Because it has like
yeah,
the
but at the same
standoffs.
time, that's like dumb because you should
Yeah,
be using
no,
headphones
yeah.
with VR.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
It's
like,
a definite headphone thing.
I still want front-facing speakers just because I don't like the speaker anywhere else besides there, and
I mean,
also
even if
think
it's just
a nice
one
aesthetic.
speaker, like that's fine. Like that would be fine too. Like the Nexus 5X just had one front-facing
Yeah.
speaker, and
Yeah,
that was still
that's-
better.
That's not a bad idea.
I just want them on the front. I think it looks better. I think it sounds better.
I want a faster fingerprint scanner because this feels like 2015 status fingerprint scanner because it is.
I
Really?
can tell the
Um,
difference.
I can definitely tell the difference. After you use like the OnePlus 3 or the Moto Z or something like that,
The
this is a
OnePlus
little
3
slow.
is like supernaturally fast.
Yeah. The Moto Z is really fast too. Even the Moto Z Play still has a really, really fast fingerprint scanner. I feel like Google, maybe there was some kind of like supplier issue. Fingerprint scanners seem to always be in kind of tight supply. But I would like to see that improve next year. I would like to see 64 gigabytes be the standard storage level. I don't think 32 really cuts it these days. And
Yeah,
the Pixel
and-
seems to consume an abnormal amount of internal storage.
And I don't really need 128 is what I'm learning.
Yeah,
So I got
128
one.
is a little too much.
And it's like,
Well, there's probably a businessy reason why it's 32 and 128 because people are like, oh, 32 isn't enough. I better just buy the expensive one.
yeah.
Yeah, I have 8 gigabytes left on my 32 gigabyte model. So, 64 should be the standard, I think. Granted, we said that about 32 like 2 years ago. So I think
Always
storage
gonna
needs
go
are
up,
just
especially
growing.
as cameras get better. I think Ryan's right. It's probably there's going to be that audience that just doesn't take pictures, doesn't install that much, and the 32 is going to be fine for them for the foreseeable future. And then I think so many people are against paying an extra $50 just 64. Let's make it 128 and call it good.
Well, I think that's assuming things about component cost. I would assume it,
Oh, sure.
there's 64 gigabyte, NAND chips are going to become cheaper, obviously. And I'm sure that eventually the difference between the 32 and the 64 will become such that it's not that important anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were the type of person who used one phone, then I would definitely want at least 64 gigabytes.
Yes.
In the device that I have with me every day. Like, I mean, I get by fine with 32 because I hop around to different phones all the time. I don't have to keep, everything on every phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but if I had one, I would definitely want at least 64.
I would also like to see Google maybe, I mean, this is probably more on the chipset side. I would like to see the USB-C port be able to do stuff aside from charge, and transfer data.
Doesn't do audio? Or I guess it doesn't.
I think it can. I don't know.
Need a firmware update to
Yeah, I'm
support
not sure if
the
the
alternate
constituent
modes.
pieces are there to make it work yet.
I
But
have a stupid question. Do we want headphone jack on the Pixel 2?
Yes, I
Of
do.
course
I
we
want the
do.
headphone jack.
I
God
want
damn it.
For at least another year, yes.
But it's plausible that they would not. Well, I guess when they announced the Pixel, they did go out of their way to say it has a headphone jack. So
Yeah.
Yeah, but so did Samsung right before. Like, hey, maybe the next one won't.
yeah, and I will say also, as good as battery life as this phone gets, I will still take more. Please give me more. Just more of the battery, always and forever.
Well, the
Until-
idle life on it is ridiculous.
It is. It's really good.
I've
Instead of,
accidentally left my phone in my car, like in the glove compartment, sitting for multiple days. I come back and it's like, wait, this has dropped like 5%. What?
yeah,
We
I
want
left.
this.
I left one of my Pixels sitting on my desk while I was using the other one, and I forgot that I left it on. And like almost, I think it was 5 days later, I picked it up. I was like, oh, this is on, and it still had like 12 or 13% battery left. I was impressed.
I think on the Pixel 2, instead of just not having a camera bump, we'll actually have like a camera cavity.
Negative camera space.
Just
Well,
to
that would
emphasize how big the battery is.
Totally. Yeah. So I think that's a good. So we want light bar. We want a better speaker setup of some kind, preferably front facing. I think the minimum storage should be 64, but whatever. Waterproofing is kind of a no-brainer. I'm almost sure they'll do that too. Like, how could they not? That'd be silly.
Well, they caught so much flack for it. They will. They even admit it.
Yeah, they did. And I think definitely don't kill the headphone jack. Please, God, Google, don't kill the headphone. Just don't do it. So yeah, I think that kind of covers it. We're moving really slowly here, so I'm going to speed things up. So we're going to talk about this. This was going to be two separate things, but we can make it one because they're both really stupid.
Stupid phones that don't exist.
Stupid phones from stupid companies. Sega's and Turing. They're just the gifts that keep on giving. Although Turing is kind of like, I'm pretty sure Steve Chow is like in a closet, like doing Molly and just writing phone press releases.
For sure. Like there is probably nobody else at that company. He's just like drunk or high all the time, and he's just like, what if a phone had two processors that don't exist?
Yeah, I like how he said Snapdragon 830, and then Qualcomm's like it's 835, and then it's really clear that he has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's amazing. The Turing phone, I think, did they start shipping that recently?
They shipped. So what they did is they shipped what they called pre-production devices, which sound as bad as they are. And so they
don't run Android anymore.
They ran Java Sailfish OS 2.0, just like a totally stock, nothing on it. And it was really hard to get Google Apps working on it, right? Because Java does the Android app emulation. But yeah, it is totally broken, and like they have weird problems and stuff. So I don't think anything will ever come of that. And then they said we're going to ship you a Snapdragon 820 version eventually, free of charge if you order.
Yeah,
which is like, oh yeah, totally. We're gonna make you a brand new phone from the ground up. Just send us your old one. We'll get to you.
Yeah. Anybody who believes that, I have got some oceanfront property in Kansas I would like to sell you.
Yeah. Turing is just like, I can't even really make fun of them anymore. It's just like, it's so obviously not real. The guy who's running is clearly delusional.
Yeah, like there's like I'm not a mental health professional, but I feel like somebody is mentally ill who's doing this.
So the more fun one though is Sega's, because they are very earnest in their assertions.
Definitely believe that they're going to ship this phone and it's going to be great.
So as we record this, it is December 30th. Sega said on December 15th, I believe, that they expect, or no, they said in November that they will ship before the end of the year. And then December 15th, they, I think, reiterated that they expect to ship before the end of the year. Pretty sure they're not going to ship before the end of the year, guys.
Yeah. Well, they had to wrap up waterproofing.
You got to wrap it up, literally.
After they got the hardware somehow. I don't know, like, are they just like spraying it with epoxy or something?
There's a guy with saran wrap in a room. He's just physically wrapping them all up. Oh, it's so amazing. They said finishing up waterproofing and debugging. Those are things.
Yeah, they're still shipping it with a Snapdragon 801, right?
Snapdragon 801, and now what they're saying is I think they saw what Turing said and like, oh man, that's a really good idea. And so they're saying now, if you get the 801 version, we'll upgrade you to an 820 version later for free.
And that'll just come out in like 2018. So
2018, just in time for the Snapdragon 870. So that's great. So they're not going to be at CES, which greatly saddens me because they've been there for the last 2 years. So by the way, the Sega's V Squared, which is now called the V2, I think. When they announced it was called the V Squared. It was announced November 2014. And they first demoed it at CES in January 2015. So it will be a full 2 years this CES since they first officially demoed the phone. And it's still not out. It's amazing.
Yeah. Do they even still have people that are waiting, or has everybody gotten
I think they do probably still have some people. I mean, I think they've had a lot of people cancel though.
Yeah.
I mean, I look
Do
at
you
their Twitter
remember-
account and I don't see that many people asking for refunds anymore.
Do you remember when they did that Indiegogo campaign? Like after they had their pre-orders, they did it again.
Yeah.
And then Indiegogo all like shadily like added all of the pre-orders to the campaign, so they instantly passed the goal.
Yes. That was so. I can't believe Indiegogo even allowed that.
Yeah, that was even for Indiegogo. That was shady. And then they got the Unbox Therapy Guide to do their demo video.
I wonder how much they paid him for that.
Yeah, probably a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be a pretty penny for sure.
Yeah.
So they're going to be at MWC though, which is in February 2017, I believe.
And they will announce the V3.
Yeah, I think I like if they've shipped the phone by then, what else would they do at MWC? Like, I guess they'd be looking for customers in Europe to buy it or something. But that's
the
V2.
V2.
Yeah, MWC's end of February, early March. Okay.
Well, if they're shipping a phone with an 801 chip, maybe they're going to go there and basically say, "Hey, guess what? We already have the next one planned."
I guess. Yeah. So yeah, Sega's is a sad joke. Moving on to things that are actually likely to exist, we have one story we ran this year that we're hoping ends up happening is there's a project inside Google called Project Bison, and it is essentially the Pixel 3, the new Pixel laptop, and we still haven't heard anything else really about it since we did this story.
But
It's
from
very
what we
exciting.
understand, it will run whatever Andromeda ends up being, that sort of hybrid operating system thing.
Yeah, that's the story at the time we posted it. I mean, Google changes plans to
Yeah, I mean, the Pixel C was supposed to run Chrome OS, and that obviously didn't happen. So who knows? But I mean, the Andromeda stuff, I think would, hopefully they can make that work, because obviously Android tablets haven't really panned out, and Chromebooks they're good at what they do, but they're limited by design.
Fast forward to October 2017, Google is pleased to announce the Chromebook Pixel 3, and if they did that, that would be so disappointing. Granted, we would have been the ones to set them up for that disappointment. So this laptop, in case you maybe want a refresher, we know a fair bit about what Google wants it to be. So it's going to have a 12.3-inch display. It's going to be compatible with a Wacom stylus, and it'll have either an M3 or an i5 core processor, depending on which model you choose, with up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, 32 or 128 gigabytes of storage, which suggests that Google is saying, "Hey, Google Drive, Google Drive, Google Drive." For all the things, which, all right. 2 USB-C ports and a headphone jack, a bunch of sensors, stereo speakers, a bunch of microphones, and they want to do like 10-hour battery life for $800 for the 8 gigabyte and Intel Core M3 version, which is cheaper substantially than either of the two last Chromebook Pixels, obviously.
So, and the idea that, I mean, if this is Andromeda, that it would be sort of Android with some Chrome OS bits that make it work more on a large display.
Yeah, and I'm super curious to just get our first glimpse at the interface that Google thinks is, because they'll essentially have a chance to start over and say, this is what we think a laptop interface should look like.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of feel like the that freeform window mode that exists in Nougat, that is obvious, like it's still there, but it's like disabled and doesn't, you can like sort of hack into it, but it doesn't work very well. I feel like that was originally the plan. And then they were like, this isn't really what we want to do. So they abandoned that. And they're sort of going at this from the other direction, like to try to actually, do the Chrome OS bits in Android.
Yeah,
I'm kind of picturing Android just running Chrome OS apps, and they'll kind of just reskin it so it looks a little different from everything that already exists.
Yeah, but Chrome OS apps are dead, right?
Well, they're
Well,
not. They're not on Chrome OS. They are on desktop browsers, I think,
Okay.
or they're going to be. I mean, I feel like the windowing system from Chrome OS is probably something that they would try to
Yeah.
build into Android. Like that's
Yeah.
what is really missing on a tablet, is that you're doing this modal app thing where it fills up the whole screen, and a lot of them don't work on like a big screen.
Well,
Like
I mean, on
developers
a
aren't.
12.3-inch screen, assuming you're using a keyboard and a touchpad, I feel like you can still probably, aside from when like you're directly side by side split screening, which Android does now. There's probably, I mean, having a super robust windowing system on a screen size like that probably is, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's necessarily mission critical. I'm just curious to see what like software, like what are we gonna get? Like,
So
I'm a little curious if, and I know this is obviously going a step beyond, but I'm curious if they're going to try to account for like external monitors right away, because the moment you introduce something like that, as you can even see with Windows 10 is still having huge problems with this, multiple monitors add a lot of complications.
I have a question that maybe Cody knows the answer to, which is if Andromeda is like base is Android with Chrome sprinkled in, doesn't that mean that like a freeform window mode is still subject to the same weaknesses as it would be on regular Android? Meaning that like when you resize a window, that counts as a state change and everything like destroys itself and rebuilds again, which is like a really terrible UX for freeform windows.
So fun fact, most OSs, and this gets into weird architectural shit, I promise I will try not to dig too deep into that, but most OSs already kind of operate that way a little bit. They allow you, if you really want to get into like deep down controlling every little thing, you can catch the messages and kind of manage it differently. But most, when you start resizing a window, they basically send that message to the application and say, all right, you know what, the whole thing's toast. You deal with redrawing it, and we'll just kind of try to optimize on the way. So you're kind of doing it badly, air quote badly, but it's not actually that big of a deal. This method is just less optimized, at least from my understanding of it. I haven't like poked around the bits too.
I mean,
close.
I guess it could also be maybe that probably Android hasn't ever had a reason to develop a visual UX around that kind of experience where it feels right.
Yeah, I mean, it happens even when you switch from landscape to portrait and back. So I don't know.
And part of it too is that they've got the whole mechanism where it kills the activity and then restarts the activity again with landscape or portrait, which that's a solution that they created for mobile because of mobile. And I mean, it makes sense in some ways, and it also plays into their intent system a little bit, but they added a lot of stuff because they were designing for mobile, and it complicated so many of the things that were simple systems. So that's kind of why I think they had trouble working backwards.
Yeah. So they either have to like undo that or just do a really good job disguising it, basically, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what undoing it would do at this stage. That they'd have to backtrack a lot of SDK stuff.
I mean, so that's important for sure. And like, I mean, I'm sure Google is probably very, very, heavily considering how they're going to make it feel like a laptop user experience, because that's important, obviously. I think the other big question is, and from what we saw, it sounds like they want to push the idea that this is going to be a device for professionals and creatives who do businessy things for business stuff. And I'm really wondering, like, is this going to be as disappointing as it could be, where like, yeah, look, these Android apps, like you can full screen and like it does stuff and like they exist. We have a robust ecosystem of Android applications available for you. Or are they actually working with companies to develop, Android laptop optimized versions of applications, probably versions of applications, especially that specialize in cloud storage, Like, am I going to get Adobe Photoshop or Lightroom on my Andromeda laptop? Because if
Or-
I'm not, then I'm never going to pay attention to this.
Will you get Photoshop or Lightroom, or will you get a product that's named after Photoshop or Lightroom?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, Photoshop Express Extreme is what you'll get.
I'm hoping for the former, but totally expecting the latter.
Well, we can.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. We can predict pretty easily what would happen if they some sort of good partnerships or agreements, or at least good motivations for those companies. It's going to be just like the Windows 8. I forget what it's called, but those creepy little consumer tablets that the original Surface tablets that didn't have like the hardcore processor in
Metro
them.
UI.
That was their the skin, but it was the one that didn't have
Windows RT.
Windows interface. Yes, thank you, RT.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things flopped horribly, and no one was surprised because they didn't have any of the apps people needed for work or air quote productivity.
And a big thing about that was like they were like locked down, like you couldn't even install like anything else.
Yeah, they
Well,
didn't support
the other
x86 at all. So like it was never going to work. And Android has pretty decent x86 emulation, as I understand it. So if you're running especially a laptop grade processor, ideally, maybe a very motivated developer could port their x86 content onto Android and make that work. But it's just, I want this to be good because I feel like Windows laptops do a lot of things right now, but there's still a lot of things where it's like, holy shit, Dell made my computer, and I can really tell Dell made my computer because like for everything that's great about it, there are so many things that are like Dell. And I just wish I could have a laptop that didn't make me feel like I have to put up with so much crap just to have, the good hardware that, doesn't get in my anyway. At $800, I probably shouldn't have my hopes too high. But I still think it's very interesting, and I think Andromeda is, assuming it happens, I'm very curious to see what that kind of entails on phones. But we should probably move on.
I have more to say about creatives, though, later.
Yes.
So our next topic is another one that is kind of like
David's
Google,
favorite.
What are you doing? It's Allo. Which, man, the amount of hype leading up to Allo's launch was pretty intense. And then Allo launched.
Yeah.
My only feeling about Allo is despair.
Yeah, it is so just a mess. I don't know who at Google thought this was a good idea, because like the instant they announced it, I think everybody just kind of went, really? This isn't a good idea.
I guess to expand on my feelings, Allo as an experience is really great. I really enjoy the interface and all of its like quirky little weird features.
Oh yeah, no, like if Allo was the new Hangouts, that would be fine.
Like even though it's basically WhatsApp, like they have some pretty nuanced stuff in there that's really cool. From a product perspective, I don't understand why this exists.
Yeah, like we've been working for years to get people to use Hangouts, and like it was installed on every phone, and like some Android people use Hangouts, and that's great because that's convenient for those of us that are always using Android stuff. But then they're like, hey, how about you use this completely different database messaging protocol, and we're gonna like stop pre-installing Hangouts on phones. And also, Allo is tied to your phone number, and it only works on one device, and it doesn't sync to other devices.
Yeah, it's like a completely not. It doesn't replace the functionality of Hangouts at all, but it seemed like they wanted to wedge it in where Hangouts should go.
Yeah, it's just such a mess.
Yeah, it's kind of like if a car company said, we have an amazing new car. It's the same price as your old car. It does everything better. It gets better gas mileage. It's faster. It looks nicer. It's newer. It's safer. It's better for the environment. And you're like, what's the catch? And it's like, well, you can only drive it on evenly numbered freeways. It doesn't work on oddly numbered freeways, so you can't do that. And it's
or on Thursdays.
Or on Thursdays, yeah. It's like you could have it could be the very best at all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, the practical reality is I'm never going to replace what I use now with this because there are too many limitations in any practical sense.
You're actually quite literally talking about electric cars pre-Tesla.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know.
And you know what? Like, God, this is like the worst time for Google to do this because, like, we have WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger that are huge. Like the opportunity to start a completely new messaging platform has passed, unless you're doing something like revolutionary and interesting. Like stickers and shouting are not gonna cut it.
No.
But also, like, I don't want interesting things in my messaging app. Like, I still use Facebook Messenger, even though I don't have Facebook, just because I have to. And the amount of like crap that it does that I don't care about and will never care about and don't want, but is still there in the interface confronting me every day.
Liam, can I interest you in some bots?
Oh my god.
Also, this camera button is now here forever.
And
please enter my bot marketplace.
But so many, I mean, look at iMessage, for instance, which like it already did a lot of things, but a lot of those things were like very utilitarian. But now it's getting beyond ridiculous. And the same for like WeChat. Like messaging apps are going to become like an entire OS before we know it, and that is not what I want.
They're going the Chrome route.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you'll buy Facebook Messenger OS laptop.
And you'll have to wait for a bot to pretend to type to open an app for you.
It'd be like if Apple came out with a MacBook and there's now a dedicated key that makes the size of the font on the keys larger. And they're like, oh, isn't that?
So what gets me too is Hangouts for so long, or at least if you listen to the commenters, for so long had no new features, no upgrades, no improvements, and then Allo happens. They announce, Hangouts, we're actually going to kind of turn it into an enterprise tool. And for the next 3 or 4 updates, it was purely stuff like little emoji, emote support, stuff like that. It was all this stuff that had nothing to do with business. And now Hangouts is actually getting like notably better, and people are saying, you know what, I've started using it again. Like, really, you waited until you got a threat?
Like I've never asked anybody I know to switch to Allo. I would never do that to them.
No.
I'm never going to do that to them.
You would do that, and then you would still have no friends on Allo because they would become your enemies.
But there's also like no incentive for either party to
there isn't.
Do that interaction. Like there's no incentive for you to tell someone to do it because then you have one person who uses it. So cool. And there's no incentive for them to do it because like, why? Like, how are you talking to them right now?
Right.
Yeah. I think Google on things like this, they're like, yeah, but the product's good. And it's like, yeah, but the product doesn't really have a compelling reason to exist. And that's kind of important too.
I feel like the design of the product is good.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think Allo does
okay.
some things right, but
the product doesn't justify its own existence.
It doesn't. And I think Google has always had a problem with that, where they say, oh, their stance is the product will prove itself if it needs to exist. And in the meantime, we're going to ignore the question of whether or not the product should exist.
That could make sense in like a vacuum where other things don't exist, but Google is competing with other companies that also have messaging clients.
And itself, which is like increasingly becomes a problem when you have, like it's fine to say like the product will prove itself or whatever, but you're going like 100% in on everything, including things that compete with other things. So even if there isn't like an explicit impact on your business from that, I just can't help but feel that from a consumer perspective, it creates like psychic stress and confusion and just not good things for the people who want to support what you're doing.
Yeah, I think we've heard before that like there's not a consistent leadership with the Hangouts team.
It was run by the Google Plus team, which is never really made any sense. But I guess they
Yeah.
considered Facebook Messenger.
You know why I
blah, blah,
think
blah.
like Hangouts was originally a Google Plus thing, wasn't it?
It was.
They had
And then
they
they
had
were like,
Huddle.
"Hey, we're killing Google Talk, and now
They
it's
had,
going to be."
well, there
Hangouts."
was-
it was Huddle at first, right? When Google Plus launched, they called it Huddle, and then it became
Something like that.
Hangouts.
And there was a time when the Google Plus team owned a bunch of stuff that wasn't really
Yeah,
related
like
to Google
photos.
Plus directly. Yeah.
Well,
so
yeah, they kind of bootstrapped their own messenger and ended up taking over.
yeah,
I think almost by accident, it seems, or maybe that was their intent. Like all social stuff was supposed to run through Google Plus, even
Yeah.
like their messaging stuff.
and
And then they accidentally took on way more than they could chew.
yeah, I think that's the likely storyline, that these things split out into separate products after they worked at Google Plus. But
So
I don't know.
there's a lot we could say about Allo, and much of it's been said. But instead of talking about things that are new, we could also talk about things that are old. So as of this year, it looks like the Nexus brand is dead, which I think is a very important milestone to point out, as kind of a year-end summary sort of thing, because Nexus has been, especially on Android Police and for people who read us, it's been there with us from the beginning almost. With the Nexus 1 in 2010, obviously, and all the way up to the Nexus 5X and 6P last year. And now there's a Nexus anymore, which did upset some people.
Yeah, it's weird to not have it. That's been like the core of the Android enthusiast experience since 2010.
I think that Nexus hasn't been what people think it is for a long time.
Yep.
If I could make a cryptic statement.
No, you're absolutely right. People have attributed so many different meanings to the Nexus products, the Nexus program, and any other use of the name. And sometimes people thought it was about price. Sometimes people thought it was about an open source version of the firmware that had no customizations away from AOSP, which I mean, ago, and it's changed with each year.
I think Google kind of always secretly hoped that the Nexus phones would be a magical smash hit and everybody would buy them. And then that never really happened.
And so like the narrative of just being like developer hardware was fallback then?
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's actually true. I think Google really did want it to be a thing from the very beginning. They're like, I think we can make these, like we can sell these to people, they'll buy them. Because they sold it on AT&T. Like they tried to make a thing out of it, and then it just didn't work. And then they did the same thing with the Nexus S on Sprint.
They knew that the Nexus 1 on T-Mobile was never going to sell to anyone. That was it was too expensive, too hard to get it out, and too few customers.
I don't think you could even buy it from T-Mobile though. Like you still bought it from Google, and then you could activate it on T-Mobile.
Did have some sort of arrangement where you could get it through them, but it was really goofy, and you still had to be in Google's developer program and stuff like that. And there was, I forget who it was some small carrier in the Midwest that actually did have Nexus 1s for sale. And it
wasn't like
and I think
or something, right? I don't know. I don't remember that.
That might have been it. But yeah, they actually had them, I guess, in the stores, and
weird.
They pitched them, but it was so weird.
There was going to be a Verizon version of the Nexus 1, I remember, and then they mysteriously canceled that.
Yeah, that was the thing. And then with the Nexus S, I mean, it wasn't like Google ever had I think there wasn't ever a point with the Nexus program where Google wasn't trying to make it commercial. Nexus S, they had the Nexus S 4G on Sprint, which I think Sprint marketed pretty heavily at the time. I remember seeing commercials.
That was one of the first WiMAX phones.
Yeah.
And it was the first one with NFC. So they had that alongside the Google Wallet launch.
They did. and then the next year was the Galaxy Nexus, which was more commercial than either of the previous two because it was on
that was
Verizon.
exclusive to Verizon in the US, which can I just say that was a very dark time in my life because I switched to Verizon to get that phone, and it was, man, the first like month with that phone was great, but then after that, like every consecutive update made it worse and worse and worse and worse, and
that's when only on Verizon actually meant only on Verizon. They didn't release it in the US as a GSM unlocked device until I think May of the next year.
And they were, that was the first time they were selling a Nexus phone for like mega cheap.
Yeah, that was the very first time. Because the Nexus 1 and Nexus S, I think, were both $530.
Yes, this is true.
And then the Galaxy Nexus was $650 on Verizon.
Yeah, it was very expensive. And then the Nexus 4, that was like that, like amazing, like, hey, it doesn't have LTE, but you can get it for whatever $200, and everybody like lost their shit and pre-ordered it, and then Google like couldn't make enough phones and had to send out emails like, sorry, we've delayed your order until later.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that. And from there, Google actually did make a business model change. And with the Nexus 4, the Nexus 4 is sold on no carriers, right? It was only on the Play Store in the US.
It was only on the Play Store, yeah.
And that was $300, and that saw them try to do the kind of the mid-range budget phone thing. But that phone was so compromised. I never liked the Nexus 4 very much.
I liked the Nexus 4.
The glittery back.
The glittery back was very fun, but everything else about it was it was okay.
Where's mine?
Yeah.
No, I wish I sold mine many years ago. I wish I kept it though.
Yeah, the Nexus 4.
I actually still even have that weird bumper they had for it.
Yes, the bumper case, because that was a thing. Because
yeah.
that was when the iPhone bumpers were so hot right now.
Yes. Good old. You're holding it wrong.
I remember they had the Nexus Orb for the Nexus 4, the wireless charger. I think I still got
and the
it around
phone
here.
would flip off of it. I remember that being a thing. People
you had to wash it down to get the dust off, otherwise it would lose contact.
Yeah. And so in the year after that, we had the Nexus 5, which I think we can say was probably peak Nexus in terms of the value to function.
There are still people clinging to their Nexus 5s.
There are.
Weird people. But
yes, weird people. Yes, I agree.
Hey.
It's time to get rid of that phone.
I had a Nexus 5 and something happened to it that we don't need to discuss right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I want to discuss it.
Look over there. 5. Didn't happen.
Because I mean, the Nexus 5 had LTE and it had a bigger screen. It had a bigger screen, right? The Nexus 4
5 instead of 4.7.
Yeah. And it had that grippy design, which was nice. I liked the grippy back.
I liked it. It was all soft touch plastic, and it was good. I mean,
you
could tell like the build quality was like a little questionable, like it sort of didn't fit together perfectly everywhere, but man, it was a really good value.
But then the next year, Google's like, never mind, we never did this. Forget what you've seen. And they're like, Nexus 6, $650. It's gigantic. It's on 2 carriers. You're going to love it, maybe.
And then 2 months later, like, how about 400?
Yeah.
350. Please buy it.
I love the Nexus 6, but man, that was the least Nexus-y phone ever. And then the Nexus...
Well, we know why, though, don't we? Because that was
Google's.
We know.
That was the Nexus's near-death experience.
It was.
Yeah.
That's actually the episode title, Nexus Near-Death Experience.
You know what? Goat Beef 7's not good enough for you now?
Not. Goat Beef 7 is a good one, but Nexus Near-Death Experience is much better.
That's got to be it.
Yeah, so the Nexus 6, I mean, we've talked about this many times on the show, was supposed to be an Android Silver device, and we're not going to go with the Android Silver is because it'll take forever. But anyway, it sounds like at the last minute, Google canceled Android Silver, and like, oh shit, we need a Nexus phone, and there you go, the Nexus 6.
Yeah, can we just change the back of this phone to say Nexus?
And they did.
By the way, what a wild ride that Nexus season was. For many reasons.
I know.
Not the least of which us being constantly trolled.
And then and then David, he had to pie himself. That was
did. Had to pie myself over the Nexus thing sticking around.
We need more pies.
Yeah.
on the show.
Yeah, and then the last year of Nexus. I mean, we also had the Nexus 9 that year, which everybody wants. Let's just forget that ever happened.
I was so excited
That
about
was
the Nexus
so
9 too.
sad. Yeah, I was
was
excited.
sad.
So disappointing.
We also neglected to mention any of the other Nexus tablets, but that's okay. I'm okay
The
not
Nexus
mentioning
10
them.
was nice.
Hey,
Whatever
I'm
time.
still gonna give the Nexus 9 one high five for changing the aspect ratio.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that was
that's
nice. That was
true.
controversial.
Yeah.
Love that
It was
aspect ratio
controversial.
so much more.
People
It
are
had
like,
a nice screen.
iPad, and then God, that was
No, the screen was
obnoxious.
nice, and everything else was not so nice.
Letterboxes are literally the devil.
The devil. So, and then we obviously went to the Nexus 5X and 6P, which honestly, I mean, the Nexus 5X was kind of old school.
The 6P
Nexus
was so
4,
good.
The 6P is very good, but what we learned is that Google still had plans to make it very consumery. They wanted people to buy them.
I mean,
yeah,
I
for
wonder.
sure.
I wonder, like, what went down that they couldn't get it on any carriers.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but yeah, I guess that's how it ended up, and I think Pixel has been an attempt to kind of press the reset button on this is how we're going to deal with smartphones and like other products as a business.
We're going
But
to spend so much cash.
I gotta say though, the carrier exclusive route might not be the way to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
I feel like they had their trade-offs with Verizon, right? Like Verizon did things for Google that it has never done for Google before. So
yeah, and I assume most of those things are a tremendous amount of money on advertising because the amount of advertising for that phone is redonkulous.
It's insane.
But every ad says only on Verizon or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm sure Verizon is paying very good money to help do this. They have to be. There's no other way this would work. So, yeah, the death of Nexus, and then when because that guy Jeff Chang, Android Wear, the other week, when he said that they were going to be like a Nexus-like model for the Android Wear watches they're making. And everybody's like, Nexus is coming back. It's
what would be great if they were
X-Files, I want to believe.
What if Google was like whatever, it's Nexus again. Deal with it.
Oh my God.
Can someone
know that
please
on the internet, maybe. I don't know.
Can someone please Photoshop the I Want to Believe poster, but with like a Nexus X logo in the sky?
And like put hide a watch like in the trees next to the UFO.
But yeah, I would think we're done with the Nexus brand.
Yes.
I think we can safely bury it. I don't think we need to worry about it. Night of the Living Dead coming back and
well, at least for hardware, it's still unclear what they're going to do with like the factory image page and all that stuff because they still use Nexus in a lot of the developer side, but that's developer side and it can kind of be buried away for this.
So that is topic number technically 8. I skipped number 7, and we're going to skip number 9 as well because we're running a little short on time, I think, here. So let's talk about, I think, Android 7.0 at large, what we think Google did right with 7.0, what we think the missed opportunities were, and where we want to see more changes come in the future.
Okay, number 1 missed opportunity is that they called it Nougat instead of Neapolitan.
That is actually a fact. That is
absolutely should have been Neapolitan.
Oh God, it
and
bugs
the
me so much.
statue is so stupid. I wish they would stop with these statues.
They had a tritone bug droid, and they ruined it. They ruined it for everyone forever.
This was also at the height of the Be Together Not the Same campaign.
It was.
And Neapolitan is like the ice cream embodiment of that slogan.
Still frustrates me. The statue is bad. It is a bad statue, and Google should be
every
ashamed.
year they get worse because the lollipop one was bad, the marshmallow one was bad.
It's like there's a brand manager saying, "Well, we can't like make the bug droid look different. It's gonna dilute the brand."
Yeah,
like nobody cares about the bug droid brand. We just care about a cool, fun statue.
I guarantee you take a picture of the standard green bug droid and you show it to 30 people on the street. Maybe 3 of them will know that that's the Android logo.
Probably not even that many.
I totally believe that that's exactly what happened though, which is so sad. I mean, the honeycomb one has a B on it, Do you think they would get away with that today?
Look,
no way.
the jelly bean one is a giant Android-shaped jar of jelly beans,
Which is
That's
amazing.
Yeah. It's
yeah,
great.
they had some really cool creative statues, and then they kind of just threw that out the window entirely.
Nougat
Though I
is-
will say, if for the next one, if they manage to make it Oreo and they manage to have a green bug droid dipping an Oreo cookie into a glass of milk, I will forgive that. That's the
I
one
want-
way I will forgive it.
I want it to be
That would be
orange
bad.
soda, and I want the Android to be a glass of soda.
Yes, I like this too. I
Or
love
a 2-liter, whatever.
a 2 liter.
But nougat as an object is ugly.
It is. It's very ugly.
Yeah, it's like here's a
it
brick
made me
of
even
what.
more frustrated. Like, we're gonna go to this small town in France where they make nougat, and we're gonna be very excited about nougat
And,
today.
I know, like here's a brick
Liars.
that I assure you is sweet and tastes good, but I know it just looks like a brick. But trust me, it's good.
And
This
I'm
was
sorry.
from before the time when we had means of like preserving food, so it's not very good, probably.
If we have any listeners out there who are like diehard nougat fans, I'm sorry, but my opinion stands.
I don't think there are any diehard nougat fans on Earth. I don't think
There
that
might
person
be.
exists. Maybe in that
Okay.
French town where they
Okay.
make all the nougat, but I
Do
still,
we have
I'm
any
still skeptical.
listeners from there?
Okay,
You know who
I
you
think
are.
we should probably talk about the
We should talk about actual Android
software
7.0 things. We could,
Oh.
we could do that.
instead of bitching about the name
No.
forever.
Okay, I think that Nico Cats is the best Easter egg to date.
It is. It's
Yes,
really good.
Absolutely.
The new
Um,
the quick settings is good. I love that you can actually like add things, like apps
Yes.
can add titles. It's super good.
That is the
I-
best change to like the upper bar area in many a year.
Yeah, and you can see
Oh,
you can see the top icons like with the notifications. Oh,
Yes.
like you don't have to open the quick settings to get to
The
that. That's
flashlight
really good.
being there is like flashlight and airplane mode. I use this
Yeah.
constantly.
Yep, that's good.
I got to
Um,
give a lot of love to launcher shortcuts, even if they decide to rename them
You
to
mean
app
app
shortcuts, which
shortcuts?
is terrible. Such a terrible name. But shortcuts, it's not getting a ton of use yet, but it's going to get better.
It's a
I
good
have-
idea.
I have had a lot of trouble like convincing myself to
Yeah.
use them. I forget they exist all
Exactly.
the time, and then I'll go to
why?
move an icon, and I'm like, oh, that's right, they do that.
You know why? Because
Thing
it's behind
that's
a
kind
long
of cool
press.
is still tear them off and throw them on the launcher screen. And we had a post specifically PSAing the fact you could do that for the My Apps screen in Play Store. And it's like, yes, that's where the real good function comes from.
Do you know how many? I've discovered 2 new features in apps that I've been using for years this week because they're behind a long press. And you know what doesn't make it better is 3D touch, but that's another issue.
I would much prefer we go the gesture route with this.
Yes.
I think that
Yeah.
makes more sense. Maybe Google will explore that a little bit. I think
Yeah.
launcher shortcuts there's viability toward like the utility. I think that the actual user experience is still like
Yeah.
I have to force myself to do this.
But so it's odd because Google's launcher, Google Now Launcher and Pixel Launcher are both pretty much totally unencumbered by gestures
yeah.
on icons. So they could have done it. Custom launchers would have had a really hard time with that.
That's
So-
true.
Well, but
So-
everyone can do what they want. You don't have to do the same gesture everywhere. Your own launcher could do its own method, and which is what Nova already demonstrated. It works.
Yeah. It's confusing to me that they decided not to go that route. But
Yeah.
oh well.
Okay, I think bad change overall. I don't like the Pixel launcher very much. I still use it. I don't like it very much though.
I don't have any ill will towards the Pixel one.
I don't like the
still-
Google Pill, and the Google
still
Pill does not work for
feel-
me.
Yeah, the pill is weird.
I don't really like the
Finger.
app drawer, but otherwise I'm indifferent.
Okay, here's the thing though. I don't particularly like the search bar on the Google Now launcher though, because it's got those suggestions and like the multicolored logo. I never really got over that.
I know how to fix that. You know
Nova.
how? Yeah. You saw it coming. No, but I still get the feeling that Pixel Launcher was kind of like, let's make Google Now Launcher, but make it differently.
Yeah,
It still
we
feels like
need
that.
more exclusive features for the Pixel.
Google
Yeah,
Now
speaking-
launcher now with different.
Yeah.
Speaking of exclusive things, there's Assistant, but only on the Pixel. So that's kind of a bummer for people who don't have the Pixel.
I don't use
but-
it very much, to tell the
Yeah,
truth.
I use it. I mean, I use it some. I use it more than I used like just the regular OK
Okay.
Google.
Here's a good one, actually. How do people feel about the double tap on recents? Because I feel like everyone is super hot on this feature.
Oh,
when
I love
we
it. I
announced
love it. I love it.
I never
love
use it.
Oh my god.
I have to remind myself to use it, but I do once in a
Oh,
while.
man.
Sometimes I accidentally press recents, and then I
don't-
press it again really fast, and I end up switching to a different app.
Man, what is the matter with you guys? I use it constantly, and every time I use a phone that doesn't have it, I get really annoyed.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Do you use Alt Tab on your PC a lot?
I don't actually.
Okay,
I
well that's
don't
weird.
either.
All right, you're just weird.
Something that, speaking of recents, something that I would like to see, and this is obviously like not on Google, it's on developers to choose to do this, but I find myself, because of the way that Overview works and the amount that I use it, which I do use it a lot, I just don't use double tap a lot. I have found myself, even though I know that it's not true, I've found myself like in Slack, for instance, I'll press the recents button and expect to be able to get to a different team, or like I'll be in an app and expect to get to like a different part of the app from Overview, and it doesn't work.
You know, the person who came up with Chrome tabs in Overview is very happy to hear that.
But I think it could work. Like
Exactly.
I do think it could work. It just did not work there.
Okay, so I might be okay with this this Liam's gonna hate this. I can already tell Liam's gonna hate my
I
idea.
have a solution in mind, but go ahead.
My solution is, so what we do is we take the fact that like there's no reason you need to be able to dismiss an app and recents in both directions. Like we can get away with one direction. So what if we make
I already don't like this.
So what if we make like at each level we have multiple entries and you swipe to the right, and you can go through the different tabs or whatever states for a given app, instead of just being able to swipe left or right to get rid of it. You can swipe you can swipe right to get rid of it and swipe left to scroll through the states of the app.
My solution, and Google came close to this, to be fair, in the later days of the Chrome tabs and Overview debacle, they came close. But my solution is basically grouping recent entries according to app in the place where the app should be in the stack. So for example, if I've opened a Slack team and I go to another one, those two are kind of like stuck to each other and they're in the front because I came from Slack.
They could, if we were to borrow something from WebOS, like when you get to something that has multiple like entries, it could sort of fan out so that you can like see each of them.
I agree with that. I like Ryan's idea better because I want that action a little bit more. I want an extra layer there so I don't accidentally open a state that I don't want.
Don't, because I feel like Overview is already like teetering on the edge of being too complex. So if it fans out, then that takes away like the easy dismissal.
Well, Liam, there's a clear all button now, so like what more do you want?
I hate that.
It automatically clears stuff out too.
I hate it.
It does. Like when they I think with Lollipop, they were like, hey, look, here's this endless app list that shows all of the things you've used ever. And then at some point it was reduced dramatically. I forget when they did that.
I hate the clear all button because I'm a really big fan of like really strong, decisive design decisions. And this feels like a concession.
I feel like this is Google trying to just get people not to install bad apps, but this seems like a bad way to do
That could be
it.
too.
Yeah. This is like, this is somebody said, hey, look, we need to put this button in, and they assigned it to an engineer, and the engineer's like, God damn it, fine, I'll put the button in, and he puts it way
I'll put
at
your
the top.
button in. I'll show you a button.
At least it's all the way at the back.
Yeah.
Yes. Other changes.
All some of the weird little very minor stuff that they buried, like apps can now put a settings icon into their app info screen. Like this is the sort of thing that you could have found in iOS, where the stuff people actually liked. It was weird little shortcuts that let you get around the OS without having to know exactly how to get to certain stuff. It's little things and it's stuff into, but it's helpful.
Yeah. Okay, so the improved doze mode in Nougat, I think, is pretty rad.
It works well.
Yeah.
Like in general, I think doze mode is one of the more underappreciated things that Google has done in the last couple of years. Like adding that in Marshmallow was awesome. like you can finally just let a phone sit there and you don't come back to it and have no battery. And like with the better version of it in Nougat, it's super useful.
Yeah, definitely.
I
was afraid it was going to be too aggressive initially when they announced it, but it seems to work well at this point. Seems to be tuned well.
How about the like better notification bundling and direct reply and all that stuff?
Direct reply is something that I kind of have to tell myself to use a lot of times, because especially after you get the Pixel, and the Pixel is so fast, like I'm not itching to reply from the notification shade too often these days.
I mean, I think direct reply is nice. It's fine.
It's
fine. It's not make or break. The notifications I both like and dislike. There are times when I open a bundle and it's like, okay, there are like 20 items in this. I don't need to be looking at this in a notification. I should just open the app. But like especially emails, that happens a lot. But if I have like a messaging app that, I open the bundle, it's like, oh, there are 3 messages. I can read them all right here. That's cool. It's just, I feel like it tries to do too many things.
Yeah, the bundling, it depends on the app a lot, I think. I think for like Inbox, the bundling works pretty well. I'm usually okay with the bundling for Inbox. But yeah, it can become difficult to manage very quickly if you have an app that's like sending you a lot of notifications.
Yeah.
So I think there's still work to be done there. I would agree with that. I still don't, and this is a really minor thing, I still don't like the concentric circle home button.
Me either. I don't like that they're filled. I much prefer the button style.
The reason I don't like that they're filled is because it makes the burn-in worse.
Right,
and it is already there on the Pixel. Yeah. It is there. Sorry to ruin everybody's day, but it's there.
The burn-in master. Always on the lookout for burn-in.
Liam, you should start burn-in.
You know what though? If you change the assist app on the Pixel, it takes away the outside circle, and it's just like the circle.
Which is a really weird way to brand your product. Like, our product is, our circle's concentric for our brand. If you have a non-concentric circle, you're off-brand.
A burn-in police would just be like one post, like a couple weeks after a new phone comes out, being like, Pixel XL : it's there. ...
Okay, I'm gonna get really cynical for a moment. I wonder how many page views we get just making, like, we would not even like publishing them like visibly, just articles like phone name screen burn in. Just that's the name of the article, and you post
says yes.
And you just post a picture of the display being burned in.
No, the body has to be how to fix : no.
Yes. That's good. All right. I think we have already run fairly long for this episode. So thank you for listening, everybody. As I said, I don't think we're going to get to the news this week. We went on through our best of the year topics for a while there. We will not be on next week during CES because the scheduling is just too crazy. We will be back the week after that, which is to say should be January, and that's not the 5th, the 12th. Okay, so we'll be back the 12th, presumably. Anyway, you can email us anytime at podcast@androidpolice.com. We are always happy to read your emails. You can call us at 530-HELLO-AP. That's 530-435-5627, and leave us a voicemail. We do like the voicemails. You can find us on Twitter @AndroidPolice, as well as on Google Plus and Facebook. Thanks for listening, everybody.
That was a good job, David. Congratulations on that one.
I winged it, except for the phone number. I had to look for the phone number. That was... I will never. I don't understand why it's a 530 number, which is my phone number's area code, which is Yolo County in California. Which,
I mean, they might have just not
is
been
that real?
Yolo County, yes, it's the name of a Native American tribe, but it's When YOLO was a thing, which was also at the end of when I was in college, it was obnoxious. Really.
Was there like a sudden influx of people?
No, there's just a really sudden influx of bad jokes. There was like there was a massive bad joke immigration. But
I see.
Yeah. All right,
that was fun for like search engine SEO.